This is Matt for Behind the Gloves in association with S-Jam Boxing. I'm delighted to be joined by heavyweight Fabio Wardley. Fabio, how's things going?
Good. Everything's all right. How's things with you, mate? All good?
Yeah, not bad. Just working away as usual.
On.
Aye. Start with your last fight anyway. I don't think we've caught up since then. Last time out, Nick Webb. You got rid of him in one round. Did everything go to plan for you that fight? Is that what you were sort of banking on, that you'd be able to take him out there quick? So I think people were saying that this could go quite get a few rounds in kind of thing for both of you. They were saying that.
The end result was the plan, definitely, but maybe the process of getting there not so much. But like me and the team, we had a game plan. We knew what we wanted to do, but just in the middle of the flow of the fight, I just decided a different way with it. I just thought, you know what, I felt like Nick I knew he would. I knew he'd come out fast, and he was coming out a lot. He had a lot of head of steam. He was a lot of confidence. He was letting a lot of shots go. He was really wanting to get stuck in. So I felt like I just needed to kind of put a cap on that before it got too much. And to be honest, the actual initial plan in that moment was to just lay maybe 3 or 4 big shots in, let him land, let him feel him, let him know that he needs to kind of think about what he's doing a bit more. Just add a bit of pause into his work. But a few of them landed pretty well. And I just saw in him that he wasn't all there. He got a little bit dazed by him. So I just decided to kind of follow up on it, capitalise, keep going through, keep pushing on it. And then whatever happens, and we got him out of there.
What did you think of the stoppage? Obviously, at the time, you were delighted and stuff. When you look back on the fight, I think a few people were saying, give him the full count, etc. Did you think it were the right stoppage?
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. You could always make an argument to give him the full count or to let him go again and put him back out there. But I think you have to take into account, one, kind of what the fight is doing in their moments. And he was just curled away and facing the other way in the corner. He was looking away from it. So he didn't look interested. He didn't look like he wanted to keep going. So that's something the ref is looking at. And then also with Nick, like you've seen in the past and stuff, when he has been stopped, he's never been the type to kind of bounce back and get straight back into the fight. They've always had quite a lasting effect on him. So no doubt the ref would have stood him up. There was still a good minute or so left in the round as well. So the ref would have stood him up, put us together, and I'd have just got straight stuck back in, and it'd have been the same result. So I think the ref did his job.
Now we mentioned this before, I think when we spoke, you're moving up in levels all the time. Like you had that Eric Molina test in Gibraltar where, you did have your chin tested in that fight a little bit as well. And, you'll get that more as you're moving up. In terms of like the domestic scene now, I think you're linked with Nathan Gorman, who's just signed with Wasserman Sports and Wasserman Boxing, quite a bit domestically. Is that really like the only fight domestically that you're looking at now before you start moving further up, internationally as well?
Yeah, domestically, I think that's the only one that makes any sense for not just me, but Nathan as well. It's like I think I've said the same, and so has he, that there's just no one else really left in that kind of domestic scene, our domestic range. There's people up and coming, don't get me wrong, but they're not kind of where me and Nathan are at the moment. And obviously there's people ahead of us as well, but they're just not at the same kind of meeting point as us. So the only ones that would kind of make sense are me and Nathan, but that's just a possibility of a fight. If it's not that, then there are other fights to have kind of around in other areas, different places and stuff, for other little titles or belts or whatever else I could potentially move towards.
Do you think that fight could be something that could be made? I was thinking about this yesterday, because obviously he's now signed with Wasserman and stuff like that, and you're with Eddie Hearn on fighting on DAZN. Does that put any sort of hurdles in the way, or do you think that relationship that sort of Carla and Eddie have got would be able to make that fight happen?
There's still going to be some obvious hurdles with it, but I think it's in a better position than it would have been if Nathan was still with Frank Warren, most definitely. Because obviously the relationship between them and Frank and Matchroom and Ed and whatever is a lot more deteriorated than it is between the Sauerland bros, who obviously they're used to working with Ed, they get on well, they work together on numerous things. So I think it'd be a lot. It doesn't make it completely a foregone conclusion, but it at least makes it a lot easier to make between them two parties.
If you can't get if you can't get Nathan Gorman, what are the sort of names you're looking at? Are you going to be now looking at, you know, like fringe world level or former world title challengers, like sort of same bracket as Eric Molina kind of thing? Or how are you looking at your next sort of steps? Because you've made the steps up, you're not going to go backwards now. You've passed that. You've got to either stay or continue to grow. So what are you looking at? Give me some names.
Yeah, I think like I'm not trying to go crazy. I'm not trying to go hunting for fringe level people or like anything like that. But there's still some learning and things I need to do. Like I've not been more than 6 rounds yet. Like out of all my 12 fights, I've not been even more than 6, and most of mine are finished within maybe 2 or 3 rounds. So that's still a big box I need to tick off, something I need to be used to and be comfortable with. Although I've been hit clean, but I've not been hit consistently. I've not had to kind of really kind of get up and come back and battle back through. So there's still a few little things I need to tick off before I start trying to go crazy and run away with it a bit. So just stay in the same kind of region of like the Eric Molinas and those good, solid, very experienced men who have been around the game a long time. They know how to look after themselves. They know how to handle themselves, and will pose different problems with me when I get in the ring with them. Like I saw with Molina, there was things in there which I struggled with, which I had to learn on the job with and figure out. So I'm looking for a few more of those.
When can we potentially see you back out? I know Dillian's got, I think, the O2 locked in at October 30th. I think I've heard you say that you had a few, niggles and stuff that you want to iron out. Does that rule you out for the rest of the year, or are you going to be back out?
More than likely. It's unlikely I'll be out again this year. Just because it's something I've needed to do for a while, something I've needed to kind of take some time and look after myself for and do, but I haven't been able to, and I haven't wanted to either. I haven't wanted to take a break. I've wanted to keep going, and that's part and part. That's what got me in this situation, because I've had a little injury which I'll push over to the next camp, which then I'll push over again, and it just builds and builds. So I'm at the point now where either I need to pay it some attention and look after it, or it's going to get to a point where it's going to get to something a bit bigger where I'm going to need like a surgery or a proper some sort of looking after. So I'm at the point now where I can look after it and manage it if I take the time and do it responsibly. So that's cool. I'm going to do that, and then we'll just go again when we go again, whether that be next year or whatever, and get straight back in the mix. But especially with the type of year I'm planning on having next year as well, with bigger fights and harder opponents and stuff as well, I'm going to need to be in top shape.
Is that difficult, that when you're carrying these little niggles? Because obviously you hear everyone say nobody comes into a fight fully fit without little niggles. Is it hard to manage that in the back of your mind, thinking, no, I should be fighting through, but really the sensible thing is just have the time off, get yourself back? Is that difficult?
Yeah, it is. Like, I hate it. I don't like it. If I had my way, I'd be out on the 30th with Deal, and I'd go again after, before the end of the year and whatever else. But my coach, my team, they're on me regularly. Like, we're done. We're taking the rest of the year off. You're not. And even my coach comes to me and he's like, he'll see me even like just looking at the poster for the fight, and he'd be like, don't even think about it. Don't get it in your head. We're not doing it, kind of thing. And I'm just like, maybe at the end, like right at the end of the year, maybe just the last one is like, look, just sit it, just wait. Like, it's you've got to learn to have some patience sometimes. Whereas I'm not known for being the most patient and sitting and wanting to sit out. I'm always wanting to be in and be involved. But this is one of those things I've just got to think about longevity.
Absolutely. While you are out of the ring for now, anyway, there's some huge fights on the horizon. Some coming up very shortly. Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. I have to say, Usyk, every time I see another training video, looks to have grown into this weight a little bit more.
Yeah.
What's your take on that fight? I know everyone at the start, I think, was more, it's a heavyweight versus cruiserweight. There's weights for a reason, but as it's slowly getting closer, I think people are more buying into it. It is really a dangerous fight, this for Anthony Joshua. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it is a massively dangerous fight. I don't think there's ever a point where you could say it isn't. I think if you're paying a lot of attention to both their social medias as well, you're seeing them kind of almost go the other way. Each of them is going the other way. You're seeing Usyk, each photo, he's looking a bit bigger, a bit chunkier, filling into his weight. And then with Joshua, some of the pictures you're seeing of him, he looks really slim, probably the slimmest we've ever seen him in a long time since he really kind of jumped on the scene. So I think they're both kind of meet in the middle somewhere and kind of be in that not too far apart in terms of weight when they do actually meet on the night. I think they'll be quite close. In terms of how the fight plays out, it is a difficult one with how they've been going. I've liked how Joshua's kind of adjusted his style slightly to a bit more of a boxer and not relying so much on the size and the power and stuff. He's really kind of settled into that nicely. And with some of Usyk's performances at heavyweight haven't been the best, but also it's not ideal to look great against someone like Chisora or whatever else he's had in front of him. So they're not always probably the best kind of measuring sticks to use of how good he can actually be. But I think Usyk on the night will realise that this is the one, and I think he will show up for this.
So who wins?
I'd edge it towards AJ. I would edge it towards AJ. I wouldn't edge it by much, but I would definitely edge it towards him. I think just the height and the reach and the size thing will be an advantage to some sense, to be able to kind of, he will do his best to keep him at range, and especially with him being a bit lighter as well, a bit more mobile, it may help in that sense. So I think that'll be kind of an edging factor.
Trilogy, Wilder Fury 3. This fight was scheduled a few months back, but obviously Tyson got COVID and it's been put back. That fight's coming up, I think, October. I don't want to say it wrong, but I think it's October the 9th, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that fight going to play out any different? Are we going to see Deontay Wilder implement a new style, or maybe bring out a style that he's just not been told to do before? Are we going to see anything different, or do you think it's a case of Tyson's got his number and it'll be a repeat? What do you think? Yeah,
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's that, and I think it's too late in the day to be teaching Wilder a whole new style. Like I know Malik, I spent quite a bit of time with him, and I know his kind of boxing brain and his style and how he would want Wilder to box, and I just don't feel like someone who's had as many fights as Wilder has, who's been in pro boxing for as long as he has, and that style has worked with him from the beginning to those last few fights of his career. It's worked perfectly fine. That's ingrained in him. So I don't think 1.5 camps or whatever with Malik Scott will be able to get that out of his system. I just don't think it'll be able. I don't think it will work. I think how I think it will go is, I think for a round or two he'll stick to that game plan. He'll work. He'll be boxing the way Malik wants him to work, box and move and whatever else. And I think once Fury really steps on him, really starts letting some shots go, once that panic sets in, your body just naturally reverts back to what it's been most kind of comfortable and repetitively doing. And I think that's when you'll see the turn of the fight. But yeah, overall, I think it's the same outcome for Fury.
It's an interesting one, just because of obviously everything that's gone on in between and the accusations and the build-up. And I'm looking forward, even though I think everyone was sort of like wanting the undisputed, I'm still looking forward to seeing how it pans out, that fight. Moving on, we had another heavyweight legend back in the ring recently, live on Triller, Evander Holyfield. Just want to get your opinion on it, as obviously a young fight coming through now, and you're seeing someone who was 58 years of age coming back and fighting, and obviously got knocked out in one round, and you could tell, it was just pleasing for me that the referee stopped it, because it didn't look all there. When you see that, does that sort of hit home to you about, what this sport can do, and, how people can get dragged back in by, whether they're offered money or how they feel about it? Is that, what do you think when you watch that?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible to watch. It really is. It's horrible to watch, especially when there's someone like Holyfield as well, who's such an idol, such a legend of the sport, to see him and then just slumped up against the ropes like that. And it's just like, it's not where you want to see him compared to where you're used to seeing him out of his heyday and some of the videos of he would used to be like. It's not nice to see, but you see it so often with boxing that boxers as a whole, they give so much to the sport that when they decide to leave or whatever else, and when they decide to retire or whatever, there's such a massive gap in their life, and they're just like, how do I feel this? What do I do? Like, what's going on? Like, it's weird. Even I get small spells of it when you train for a fight camp and it takes 12 weeks or whatever else. So for 12 weeks, your whole life just revolves around training, boxing, going to the gym. You know what every second of your day is going to be like. You know what you're going, what you got to do. And then it's all over and you get home and you're like, what the fuck did I used to do with my time? Like, where did I used to go? What are my hobbies? Like, what am I doing? Like, you just don't know. You sit there for a bit and you have to figure it all out again. So after like 20 or 30 odd years of that, it's like that gap just grows and grows every time. But it's it's not nice to see.
Do you find it difficult after a fight where obviously you build up to it and the high and that your sort of achievement is getting the victory on the night, having the fight, you've worked for that. And then after fight night for the next couple of days, do you dip or anything, or does your mood sort of sink and you think, what am I doing now kind of thing, because you're not working towards something? Does your mood change at all? Because you've seen it, obviously, I know Tyson spoke about it before, but does that happen? Have you seen that happening yourself or anything like that?
No, my to be fair, my mood never dips. I'm never like upset like that. I'm usually probably still on a high from the win or whatever, and from like the messages from people sending me and stuff. I'm still buzzy off it. But after a while, it's more so the time thing. It's when like it's probably 3 or 4 days later when everything's really settled down, you're home or whatever, and you just sit there and go, right, so what the fuck am I going to do tomorrow then? Like, what's going on? Where am I going? What am I doing? But it's a funny one. But over time, you learn how to kind of deal with it and how to fill those gaps. But it is a weird one of just trying to figure out how to have that balance in your life of being on such a high, because it comes and goes so quickly. Of like, it seems like you go to sleep and you wake up and it's like the Sunday after the fight, and you're like, so that's all done then. That's over with. Like, I'm on to the next one, on to something new.
Is that why you started that podcast that I know you were doing for a little bit? Is that back? What's going on with it? Back?
Yeah, literally. That's what I do. That's what you do. You start filling gaps. You go, fuck it, I'll just make a podcast and just stuff like that. But no, yeah, that's been fun, to be fair. I've enjoyed that. It's been a good laugh.
Last thing, just wanted to get your opinion on. Obviously, drugs in boxing and stuff. It's been a hot topic for forever and a day. But we recently saw Oscar Valdez, WBC champion, test positive on both an A and a B sample, and then was allowed to fight. It's a strange one. I know people have come out and spoke about it. For me, it didn't make much sense whatsoever, but obviously I'm sure there's things happening in the background. When you see stuff like that, how does that sit with you when obviously it's not just an A sample, a B sample, and he's come back positive for stuff, but yet a commission's allowed him to fight? How do you see that situation? What's your feeling on it?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It makes no sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense at all. I don't know how you can test positive on both, not just one, not just the other, whatever. Both, and then they'd be like, yeah, okay, no worries, you can still get in the ring. Like, because the thing is, if you say they do that and then God forbid something awful happens to his opponent, then like that's on their hands. That's for them to go, shit, we've messed up here. And it shouldn't take an event like that for it to be looked at more seriously. But it's a shame, but it's always the way it's going to be, in not just in boxing, but in competitive sports as a whole. When everyone's dying for the extra inch that will get you to that next level, that bit ahead or whatever else, it's a sad shame that comes with the sport.
It's weird because I was speaking to Eddie about it, and Eddie was saying that there's 2 different lists of things you can test for, one on WADA and one on VADA, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, surely there's one list for everyone. This is what you can take, this is what you can't not. Well, that you can on this test, but not on this test. Because if you're enrolled in both, then how do you pop for one and clean for? How's it work? That's
what. But this is the problem where they're separate. They're a bunch of separate organisations, aren't they? So they all can run by their own rules and do it their own way. But it sounds like it should be simple. Of no, you can't have that. Yes, you can have that. No, you definitely can't have that. It's not like, well, that one's, you can only have that one a week before the fight. You can't have it 2 days before the fight, and you start moving into stupid territory like that, and it just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely not. Anyway, Fabio, it's been good to have a catch up. Thanks for giving us some of your time. I know you're a busy man, with all your interviews and stuff like that, and you have to battle to get some minutes with you. I know you're.
Not at all, mate. Never.
But yeah, thanks for speaking to Behind the Gloves, and we look forward to seeing you back in the ring, and yeah, doing what you do best, bud.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Catch you soon.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so by clicking this icon right here, or else